Greetings everyone, my name is FlareBlitzed and welcome to the long-awaited return of Steins Gate, specifically the newest addition to the universe of Steins Gate, which is Steins Gate 0, as you can see on screen. Now, before we enter in this, I want to make this clear. This is the only video I'm going to be uploading of Steins Gate. I tried to do a Let's Play of Root Letter, but the marketing director hammered me for doing that. But it's okay because we learned from that, and now we're only going to do like a preview video. So what this is going to consist of is the prologue of this game, or an hour's worth of footage, depending on which one comes first. Obviously, if the prologue's only like 20 minutes long, then we'll do a bit more than that. But without further ado, let us get into Steins Gate 0. This is pretty exciting. I've been waiting for this for since... I've been waiting for this since the release of Steins Gate on Steam, which you'll find a link in the description below for that, and also a link in the description for buying this game on Amazon and also for Rice. This is a work of fiction with no relation to real persons, places, or groups. Good. So let's watch the beginning and behold the adventures that await with us. Familiar places. Rintaro Okabe, Makise Kurisu. Epic. But what does 0 stand for? I've one theory about that, and that stands for the time diversions, in which if it starts at 0, it means it's on the Alpha Worldline. So I wonder how that will play out in terms of our progression for the game itself. So we're just going to look through the options itself to see what there is. Okay, so basic, skip, release at trigger, tips, information, auto quick save, yes. No, we'll keep that. How do we go down to sound? Oh right, page. Text speed, message speed, will set that a bit more up here. Sound as good as it is. Voice, Rintaro, we'll set these quite low so that we can hear ourselves talking. But oh my god, this is such an innovation from the past Steins Gate, the one released back in 2009. Lukaku, who was a bit confusing as to which one he was. Wonder why that character's set to minimum. Maho H, Zusahan, Little Child, the Shopkeeper. Ah, there's two. Right. Oh, maybe we have to unlock those. That's why. There we go. Wait, I didn't even config. Okay, it does it automatically. I remember back in Steins Gate 1, the one on PC, every time you just exit out, you couldn't actually do anything. Well, just do anything, but you didn't actually save your options. So let's go into new game and see what this game has to offer us. I love the anime of Steins Gate. There's no real release date for Steins Gate 0. Oh, remember this. Oh, this takes me way back. This is the original timeline. This is when we just came back into the beta world line. If you can't follow the story of Steins Gate 0, then please check out Steins Gate the original. Ah, that's the beta world line divergence without the alteration of saving Makise. So, if you don't know much about this game, I suggest check out the first game before playing this game, and we'll see what there is. The hatch opened. Bright light flooded my eyes. Where was I? My eyes narrowed. I believe we're speaking as Rintaro Okabe. I can barely make out the summer's twilight sky. I didn't want to leave. I just wanted to disappear. But someone grabs my arm and drags me out. Whoa, he's back already. It hasn't even been a minute, has it? Aha, so this is in chapter 11 of Steins Gate original. Oh, Colleen. I didn't have the energy to respond to my own nickname. I fell to the ground and wrapped my arms around myself. Oh, Colleen. Mayuri runs to me and looks down, her face worried, but her kindness felt like nothing but a nuisance. Don't talk to me. Just leave me alone. Wait, you're covered in blood. What happened? You failed to save her. Dad, get me a towel and water. Oh, and new clothes now. Huh? Can someone tell me what's going on? Just do it now. Oh, okay. Dara ran to the door that led back inside the building. Uncle, are you okay? Hang in there, don't die, please. It's fine, he's not hurt. Stop it. Ah, this is new. Just get away from me. Leave me alone. I couldn't save her. In fact, I killed her myself. Right here 3 weeks ago. I killed her. I'm a murderer. It didn't work. No matter what we do, it's not going to work. It's all been decided already. It's the same as it was with Mayuri. You never even explained it to Mayuri about her role within the story, because she was the main sufferer on the Alpha Worldline. No matter how many times I try, it will all converge back to the same result. The process doesn't matter. No, it doesn't matter where you go or how you did it. The end result will always be the same, regardless of the execution of getting to that destination. I thought I understood the cruel truth, but now I was forced to realize it again, and in the worst possible way. Repetition of the process. You think it's useless? I knew this. I already knew this would happen. I'm so tired. I haven't rested in so long. I'm done. Stop being a laugher. Ah, this time Mayuri didn't slap her. Sorry, him. I killed her. I'm an idiot. It's all my fault. He killed Kurisu Makise. Kill, that can't be true. It can't. Don't worry. You got enough for one more tent. Just leave me alone. No matter how many times I try, it all end up the same. What are you saying? Are you going to give up? Billions of lives depend on you, Uncle Okabe. Who cares if you fail once? Got a new tip, Worldline. There is just no way to save Kurisu. You can't stop the Worldline conversions. That's the reality of this world. I learned that a long time ago. These are different events because if you don't know the story, Mayuri's the one who slaps him. I can't bear to see Okabe like this. If he doesn't, the future won't change. Why? Why does Okabe have to change the future all by himself? That's too much for him to bear. Because only Uncle Okabe has the powers of an observer of the world. Okabe didn't want that. And I think even if he tried, he'd just get hurt again. It's impossible for one person to change the world all by themselves. And that's why Steins Gate is. I know how you feel, But I'm here for the sake of the future. I can't go back to 2036 either way, so I'm not going to give up so easily. Uncle Okabe, I'll tell you one thing. This time machine has a finite amount of fuel. At first I told you it could only be used to go back there and back twice, but there's actually a little more fuel than that. Even so, it can only travel about 344 days. Even if you do a one-way trip, less than a year from now, you won't be able to reach July the 28th. Remember this. When that day comes, I'll go myself if I must. Someone was saying something to me, but I couldn't understand the words. I didn't want to listen to anything, I just wanted to sleep. Just let this all end. Just let me go. Mayuri's always been there for him, through the toughest of times. Hey, Okabe. You don't have to push yourself so hard anymore, okay? It's okay to cry, Okabe. Mayuri is here for you. Okay, Okabe? I don't know if Mayuri's words were the reason why, but the tears started to flow. I decided to forget everything. Got a new tip. Future Gadget Laboratory. Ever since today, I stopped going to the Future Gadget Lab, because it reminded you of Makise Kurisu. It's such a touching story, this is. Open to the new gate. Absolute Zero. Is that what the reference to Zero is of the title of the game? 23rd of November 2010. So you can't complain about the heat if it's November. U-Perks, the new symbol of Akihabara, was located right in front of the station. In the hall of the 4th floor, preparations have been going on all morning for the 80th Akihabara Techno Forum Convention. Universities and labs from both inside and outside the country would work together to put on special seminars and symposiums at irregular intervals. Okay, so one thing I've read about this game is that it doesn't just rely on PhoneWave. Well, I don't think it relies on PhoneWaves anymore since the technology was on the Alpha Worldline. This game relies on artificial intelligence, which is very good. My school, Tokyo Denki University, was participating as part of its industry collaboration efforts. Students were required to attend these seminars and submit reports to their instructors. Otherwise, they wouldn't get credit for their related classes. In addition, I was supposed to have one of the lectures associate Professor Azaki. I had just gotten a list from the reception desk at the shared lobby. I was waiting to check off the names for students who were coming to the lectures. There was still some time before the seminar started, so the lobby was mostly empty. None of the students on the list were here yet. I was bored, but I couldn't do anything but wait. The old me never could have imagined doing anything like this, but impressing Azaki was part of my new goal in life. So who is Azaki? Vector Chandelier University. Yes, that was my new goal. Azaki did a lot of joint research projects with them and knew a lot of people there. The best first step of getting there my brain could come up with was being his assistant. Sound nostalgic? Rintaro Okabe? The word assistant? Also, this convention was holding another seminar on my Victor Chandelier University after the one held this summer. Of course that interested me too. Summer. Flashbacks. An image of her as she was then flashed through my mind. I was trying to get to Victor Chandelier so that I could learn about the work that Kurisu and Makise had been doing. Right, so Victor must have been one of Kurisu Makise's acquaintances. That's what I can think of. Of course, I wasn't a genius like Kurisu. I knew there was no way I'd be able to do exactly what she did. But if I could do even 10% of it, honestly, I'm amazed that I've recovered so well. I thought back to myself and chuckled, just as a voice called to me from across the lobby. Excuse me? Hi, you're a new one. You must be a new character to the scene. I looked up and saw a young girl approaching from the elevator hall. She was short and petite. Everything about her was small. I could kind of make out a few of the curves that didn't appear until after, puberty. So at least she wasn't in elementary school, but maybe middle school? For someone with such a cute face, she clearly didn't care about her appearance. Her hair wasn't styled and it poured down her back. Even I could tell her clothes weren't very fashionable. You with fashion, Rintaro. Oh, not a good mix. Excuse me, where's the staff room? This is the ATF seminar. Clearly not a place where a middle school girl belonged. She probably just came to the wrong place. I know that. How many times am I going to have to say this? This is the first time you said it to me. And you're the fourth person I've said it to since I got here. Irritated, she pulled a card out of her jacket. It was one of the IDs given to invited guests. Her name and the name of her workplace were written on the front. Akabara Techno Forum. Oh, you're Victor. Victor Chonda University, Brain Science Institute. Victor Chonda University, USA, Brain Science Institute. I looked at the card and then at her, then back at the card, then I looked at her again. I finally realised. Oh, so that's it. Where did she find this card? You assume that she's not Victor. I've done that 3 times already, too. Aww. She shied and showed me another card. This one was a photo ID of Victor Chonda University. Huh? What? It was the same ID I'd seen Kurisu holding before on another Worldline. The photo on the card, yeah, that was definitely her. Maho Hiyajo. That's my name. Maho Hiyajo. I'll say it to you now, because nobody's ever been able to read it right. Not in Japanese or English. And you're from Victor Chonda University Middle School. Stop messing around. Universities don't have middle schools. That's true, when you skipped a bunch of grades. You're presuming too much. Unlike in Japan, it wasn't uncommon for Americans to skip grades. Kurisu had made it to university at age 17. But still, a girl this young working in a university lab. Can I ask you something? Sure. You're feeling pretty shocked right now, right? Let me guess. A small child like this? I can't believe it, right? Or are you the one of the "she must be amazing to be able to do that at her age" types? She got me. Look here, closely. Hiyajo Maho. I'm going to call you Maho, but please don't hammer me if I got her name incorrect. So you was born either on the 2nd of November or the 11th of February. She was born in 1989 and it was 2010, so you're 21 years old. In other words, I'm an adult woman. I'm not in middle school, and of course, not in elementary school or daycare either. And then she puffed out her chest. There wasn't much to see, but I could imagine her saying, "They look bigger when I'm not wearing clothes. They're huge." What's that look supposed to mean? Oh no, sorry, I apologise. I couldn't believe it. She was older than me. Legal lolly. If Dara were here, he would be dancing around screaming, "Logical lolly for the win!" It doesn't matter, I guess. I get the same thing from all around the world, no matter where I go. Yeah, I'm sure. Did you say something? No, I didn't. Still, the Brain Science Institute. That's where Kurisu worked. Which means this person might know a lot about Kurisu. I held back the impulse of starting budging her with questions. I looked at the pamphlet with the seminar schedules. Victor Chondi's lecture was the last one of the day, and was clearly intended to be the biggest. Was this Maho Hiyajo girl going to give a lecture? Just like Kurisu had done at the summer convention. No, wait, that's wrong. That never happened. Kurisu and Makise never gave any lectures over the summer. Yeah, that was on the Alpha Worldline. Just coincidence, isn't it? And in the Worldline I happen to now, before the summer convention, she'd already... Are you giving the lecture today? No. I'm here as an assistant. Oh, and translator too. Top dog. I looked at the pamphlet again and saw that the lecturer was a man named Alex Leskiny. Alex Leskiny, a professor at Vector Chonda University and the chief researcher at the Brain Science Institute. The topic is the artificial intelligence revolution, huh? Yeah, sounds interesting. If you've got the time, I'd love for you to come listen. I will. Oh, the staff room, right? I led Maho over the elevator hall and showed her where the staff room was. Thanks. I had no reason to hang around her any further. I said goodbye and was just about to turn around. Just then, the elevator opened and a woman emerged. Moika? The instant I saw her face, every hair on my body stood on end. How can I have guessed? It is Moika. Good to see you, Moika Kuri. It was all I could do to keep myself from screaming. Calm down. This is the Beta Worldline. Mayuri's alive. Moika's not going to kill her. Hi. Our eyes meet. The eyes on the other side of her glasses were as dead as ever, and it was impossible to tell what she was thinking. I frankly averted my gaze before she realized something was wrong. She tilted her head for a second, but quickly lost interest in me and turned toward Maho. What's your intentions? You're with a magazine, right? I'm here about the interview. Even in the Worldline, even in this Worldline, Moika still only spoke in faint whispers. Dr. Lesaginki isn't here yet. It may be a minute. Okay. If you want, I can go over the system until he gets here. Thank you. The two of them disappeared into the staff room. As I watched them leave, I took a deep breath. I tried to calm down, but it wasn't working. Moika Kure, is it going to be you again? It was a terrible feeling, like a cold finger tracing... Oh. That night, when the terrorist threat shut down all trains in Akihabara, that awful night, when I just knew something was going to happen. Are you going to do it again? Here? Was I just imagining things? Was she just a magazine reporter now instead of a CERN rounder? Yeah, but you know, Rintaro, if you look deep back enough, you would know that CERN is not as powerful as it was on the Alpha Worldline. Because it didn't trace your emails. No, even if Moika was a rounder, we had nothing to do with CERN anymore. CERN wouldn't be watching us. Deep breathe in and out. I took another deep breath, grabbed some of the anxiety meds in my pocket and swallowed them down with some mineral water I brought ahead of time. I thought you liked the Dr. Peeps. It would take 15 minutes for them to kick in. Those 15 minutes were always pretty rough. I laughed at myself a little and sat down on one of the reception desk's chairs. What the hell's that? I got a message of some sorts. No. Even if America was around, we had nothing to do with us anymore. And, not myself. Play voice. What's that? Oh, we have a phone, right, okay. Why are those written in Japanese? Rin? Da da da. Alkaline, are things going okay with Mr. Seminar? Yeah, no problem. With the emoji face looking so sad. Trophy earned. Resonating reaction I can't pronounce that. Okay, so going on triangle indicates the log. Pressing the center button. Okay, pressing the center button indicates tips. So, brain science, the field of study where researches animal brains, also called neuroscience, investigates the brain from a number of perspectives, including biology, genetics, medicine, psychology, and electrical engineering. Right. So how do we go back from here? I see. That's great. I can't wait to see what kind of seminar it will be. She wishes she could have seen it too. It would be a little too hard for you to follow. A Mayuri emoji. You're right. Okay, I don't want to get in your way. Bye. Ah, so you have to do that when the conversation ends. Aha. It's very important to look at your phone for texts. The PhoneWave function doesn't exist anymore, but texts are still important. The table was filled with leaflets, pamphlets, and other things for a tendency. Oh wait, we don't want to select auto. Circle hides the text, and obviously X follows on the story. L2. Okay, L2 and R2 do the same. Oh, I didn't mean to do that. That's skipped. L1 is skip. Nakabachi theory and the geology of pseudoscience. This pamphlet was Professor Azaki's seminar. Nakabachi theory. The paper he announced in Russia. That paper held the key to creating a real time machine. On that day, July the 28th, Nakabachi had stolen the paper from Kurisu, his own daughter, and left with it. I knew that. Only Nakabachi and I knew that. I flipped through the pamphlet. It was a brief introduction to the many forms of pseudoscience and fake scientific discoveries that have emerged since the start of the 20th century. On its own, it did make for an interesting reading. And at the end of the pamphlet, Nakabachi theory was introduced as nothing more than another entry in that long list of fakes. So Dr. Nakabachi's time machine theory has been completely ignored by the academic world. All the glory, fame, and power he wanted so badly that he was willing to get rid of his own daughter, he didn't get any of it. And I heard rumours that after the announcement, he'd been imprisoned in a Russian lab. To make it even funnier, he thought he was getting VIP treatment. For a short time, there were essays and interviews in bogus academic journals. Even there, it was obvious it had all gone to his head. The ironic feeling that Nakabachi theory was completely correct and completely revolutionary. The Russian government was worried about it leaking, and the SBR was doing everything it can to keep it under wraps. But under the surface, there was a full-scale information war beginning over the paper. The time traveler from 2036, John Tita, had told me so, which meant it had to be true. Was World War III really going to happen? There was no point in thinking about it. Just a little more before the drugs kicks in. I closed my eyes. Several hours later, the convention was going well. After Professor Azuki's seminar, most of the students from my university went home. But I killed some of the time and came back. I wanted to hear the Victor Chandler lecture. I headed to the hall with plenty of time to spare and saw Maho Hyuji coming from the staff room. Ah, you must be the professor. She was with a very tall foreigner. Was that Alex Lazinki? It didn't seem like an American name, but maybe he was an immigrant like Kurisu, or at least descended from one. I didn't mean to eavesdrop, but the looks on their faces were so serious that I couldn't help but listen. Since they were both speaking in English, I can barely make out any of it, but I could tell from their voices that it wasn't a pleasant chat. Wait, did I just hear the word Makise? I hated the fact that I couldn't speak English. If I'd known this was going to happen, I would have gone to an English school. Okay. The two of them walked into the waiting room for lectures. It was located right next to the UPX theatre. I'll put together the few fragments I was able to understand. Fire at Kurisu's house, Mrs. Makise is alright, robbery, the police called off the investigation, why was the FBI there? It doesn't make sense. I think that's what they were saying. Kurisu's house, did it mean where she lived in America? Her mother should still be in America. And is that what the fire was? And then words like robbery and the investigation was called off. I really wanted to know more. I stood there and worried until it was time for the lecture to begin. With nothing else to do, I went inside the theatre. I could tell earlier by looking at the size of the crowds going inside. But it was a very high energy crowd. The atmosphere was completely different from Zaka's seminar, which was mostly students there for credit. The place was nearly full with a crowd of scientists and people who wanted to learn about cutting-edge technology. Victor Chandra's researchers had published a slate of papers in Science recently and had gotten a lot of media attention. Maybe that was why. Were there any open seats? I found a single open seat at the edge, but when I looked at who was sitting next to it, I mourned. Morika, you again. Mayuri Kurisu was there. She was speaking to no one, just typing endlessly with her phone. I once named her Shining Finger because of her incredible typing speed, and she was as fast as ever. Who was she talking to? I didn't even want to imagine. I quickly turned away and looked for another seat. Dr. Lezakinisi reached the podium almost the exact instant I sat down. Hi there. There was a huge wave of applause, but when they saw the tiny little girl come up next to him, the applause faded into confused murmurs. Maho must have expected this. Her expression didn't change in the slightest as she stood next to the professor. In fact, when she took the microphone from the professor and looked around the theatre, she looked like she belonged there. Ladies and gentlemen, first Dr. Lezinki began to speak in English. When he made eye contact with Maho, she began to interpret. Everyone, thank you for coming to my seminar. My name is Alexa Lezinki, and I'm with Victor Contra University's Brain Science Institute. My speciality is brain signal processing systems and artificial intelligence theory. Artificial intelligence theory. That's going to be important for this game. And I am his assistant, Maria Hiyajo. I'm also a researcher at the Institute, working under the professor. I'm glad to meet you all. The audience started murmuring again. That was the very same way I responded when I met her. Well, that'll happen, yeah. I'd like to get right into it by introducing some of the cutting-edge research we're doing. The topic we're discussing today is the artificial intelligence revolution, but I think the system we're going... The system. Oh, right. I was thinking of the organization, but I think the system we're going to demonstrate today goes beyond anything you've ever imagined. Dr. Lezinki stood in front of a laptop that had been placed on the podium and started to type. This computer is linked to one of the supercomputers in our labs. Oh, don't turn on the projector just yet. One of the staffers was about to display the laptop screen on the front projector. Some kind of important program must have been booting up, but Maho Kurisu stopped them. Sorry. This stuff isn't complete yet. The screen's filled with programs that aren't very pretty to look at. I'm sure Rintaro would be very delighted. I will rather let you see me naked than see those lousy programs. I think, what are the crowd's going to say? If there are any engineers in the audience today, you know what I'm talking about, right? Some of the audience got the professor's joke and laughed. While it's booting up, I'll go over the basic idea of the system. There was another projector in the center of the stage. A diagram appeared on the screen, and at the top of the diagram was a Japanese translation for the general audience. An analysis of neural pulse signals related to memory stored in the temporal lobe. Does that sound familiar, audience? Does that sound familiar, Rintaro Okabe? That is the sort of science that Makise Kurisu was a specialist on. I knew that title well. In fact, I was sure I could never forget it. It was the title of an essay written by a 17-year-old genius and published in Science. She had completely analysed the nerve impulse patterns that govern human memory and used that to digitalize the memories themselves into data. And she had used that to invent the time leap machine right in front of my eyes. Though none of that had actually happened anymore. This paper appeared in Science, so I'm sure some of you had seen it before. This theory was proposed and finalized by a brilliant Japanese member on our team. Human memories are stored in the cerebral cortex. Cerebral cortex. Particularly the temporal lobe. They're a lot like flash memory. The part of the brain that reads and writes as flash memory is called the hippocampus. The hippocampus campogyrus. Dr. Desenki pointed to the diagrams of the brain and hippocampus on the screen. The brain functions by sending electrical signals between cells called neurons. Memories are actually just a translation of those electrical signals, and it's the hippocampus gyro that controls them. In other words, memories are created by passing electrical signals in and out of the hippocampus gyrus. So Kurisu Makise, the Japanese scientist who wrote this paper, Miss Makise came up with an idea. Electrical signals, signal patterns, the cerebral cortex. Maho started to have trouble with her interpreting. She was getting confused. No matter how good you were with languages, interpreting for a long period of time had to be difficult. I once read an article on the internet that said even a professional can't do it for more than 20 minutes. International conferences and live broadcasts from overseas were actually handled by a team of people switching off. Or maybe, was she having trouble because Kurisu's name came up? Dr. Desenki saw she was having trouble and cut himself off. I'm sorry, Miss Makise focused on the pattern of electrical signals going in and out of the hippocampus gyrus. By analysing the pattern, she was able to get complete data on which memory in the cerebral cortex is corresponded to. This created a basic theory that lets us to take the vague analog things we call memories and turn it into a digital combination of electrical signals. The result was her paper, which appeared in Science. And right now, our team is using that theory to create a system to turn a person's memories into digital data. A wave of whispers swept across the theatre. Which means we can store and access a human's memories on a computer. The whisper turned into a low roar. I see. So even after her death, Kurisu's research was being carried on. Of course, maybe it was natural that it would be. That was a basic theory for time leaping, which I had proved myself. Even if I could never prove it to anyone else in the Alpha Worldline. My memories had been turned into data and stored on a computer. There is no doubt about that. And what Dr. Lezinski was talking about right now was the basic technology required for that process. There are two major projects we're working on right now. One uses a system for medical applications. The side of the project had changed. This project is a joint effort with the psychophysiological lab. Psychophysiological lab, whatever it's called. The idea is to use the hippocampus gyrus to put the memory stored on a computer back into the brain. Incredible. Someone who looked like a grad student in front row shouted. Dr. Lezinski didn't seem particularly put off by the interpretation. Maho continued in the interpretation. Incredible, huh? I can understand how you feel. I would feel the same way in your position. But we feel this research is making real progress. How wonderful would it be if we could make this work? One example would be memory problems caused by aging or Alzheimer's. This would be a form of simultonic therapy. We could automatically back up the patient's memories as data. Even if a patient loses their memories, they can just go to their PC and reinstall them. We think this would be a way to stop memory loss. In the end, we hope to make memory data stored on your PC constantly accessible via the hippocampus gyrus. This would mean that if brain functionality was lost, for example, if the brain was badly damaged or atrophied, brain functionality could still be maintained. It would be like a form of external storage. A strange feeling gripped the whole. Part of it was shock and the feeling that we were witnessing the announcement of an incredible technology. Part of it was skepticism that a system like this could ever actually work. Part of it was illusion at the idea of playing around with a human brain like that. An excitement born of all these things passed down from one member of the crowd to another. Dr. Lezinski raised his hands to encourage questioners. It looked like I need to take questions before we move on to the next project. I'll answer anything I can, go ahead. Many hands were raised. I could tell that there was a wide age range of people interested. Both young and old were raising their hands. Dr. Lezinski pointed to a questioner. This was the first question. Sampling would be required when digitalizing analog memories. Does that mean any information would be lost? The professor nodded as he listened to the question in Japanese and began to respond in English when the speaker finished. Maybe he was able to understand Japanese, if not speak it. To put your question another way, you're saying that when you're saving a live recording of an orchestra as a WAV file, it's impossible to record everything. You can only store the audio. That's a good question, and it's one of the biggest problems facing our research right now. If a network within the brain consists simply of neurotransmissions turning off and on, that is, exchanging binary data, the problem would be same, Paul. This would be the exact same thing as a computer's digital data. But we know that digital signals form an analog network within the brain. The only way we have to deal with this problem right now is to sample at a higher rate. To control our music example, instead of sampling at 44.1 kHz, we'd sample at 48 kHz. Instead of 48, we'd use 96. This allows us to recreate something very close to the original analog data digitally. Little by little, the mood in the room was turning to disappointment. People were beginning to wonder if this was just a pretty theory that wouldn't work in reality. More questions came. All of the questioners were skeptical of the professor's theory, and many of them seemed to be outright challenging him. I started to get upset. This was Dr. Zinki's research, but it was also Kurisu's. I knew better than anyone that it worked, and the sight of so many people refusing to give in the chance infuriated me. Were these people really scientists? I tried to keep myself under control and looked back towards the podium. Was she mad? She certainly looked disappointed. Dr. Zinki was very polite with the rude questioners, acknowledging the problems with the theory. She was very different. Her anger was starting to sap into her interpreting too. I felt a kind of kinship with her. The question and answer session continued. From a medical standpoint, this is just reckless. It's absolutely impossible to rewrite digital data back into the brain. It's insane. I read the essay in Science, and I have to say, I don't believe it. Especially since the lead author was just a 17-year-old girl. That was one thing I couldn't ignore. Listen. Objection! Why? The two people on the stage and the entire audience all turned towards me at once. How do you know it wouldn't work when you haven't even tried? The world's full of technologies that people never thought would work. But they exist now because people overcome those problems. Criticism alone doesn't help anything. The whole theatre went silent, but I didn't regret standing up. You? On the stage, Maho Hiyajo was staring at me in shock, and as for Dr. Zinki, I saw a flash of white teeth as our eyes met. Awesome, he's really something. He started to applaud. Thank you. Huh? Why was he applauding? That just makes me embarrassing. Awesome, he's really something, Professor Sam says. Maho translated the professor's words for me to hear. But a scientist must remain calm at all times. The only time when you're allowed to yell is when your experiment succeeds and you say, "We did it." That's all you need, he says. I'm sorry. I lowered my head and sat down. I thought I was calm, but I guess I let my emotions get away from me. I hadn't grown up at all in the past 6 months. If Kurisu here should make fun of me again, I couldn't feel the rest of the audience staring at me coldly. It hurts. If I could have left, I would have wanted to, but I was too interested in hearing the rest of Dr. Zinki's talk to move. Alright, everyone, moving on. But first, how about a round of applause to our brave audience member? Oh, that's just embarrassing to the limit. Challengers like him are the ones who advance science and come up with the really amazing theories. He may be capable of becoming the third Einstein. By the way, the second Einstein is my little assistant here. Stop me. The audience chuckled. Sheesh. Now then, I'm going to take a break from interrupting. The next interrupter is far better than I am. This is our second project and the one we're putting most of our efforts towards. The Amadeus system. When she finished speaking, wait, I've just got to change something really quickly. No, I'm just going to change. Okay, I can't change it when config, voice. You need to be dropped right down. There we go. There we go. At Dr. Zinki's signal, the PC screen was displayed on the projector, and then I heard a voice. Nice to meet you, everyone. The murmuring got louder than before, but it felt more uncertain than surprised. On the screen, I could see a detailed 3D model of Maho, the girl who had just been interpreting. By the way, this model was made by the famous Drinkwater Studios. You've probably seen their movies. Maho chimed in from the back of the stage. The voice was done by a Japanese company. Yamana used my voice samples. This was computer graphic. It sure looks real to me. The professor said something into the laptop's microphone, and then a 3D model of Maho on the screen opened its mouth. I'm Maho, to be precise. I'm a being based on Maho who existed 78 hours and 22 minutes ago. If you listened carefully, you might be able to hear something slightly off, but it sounded far more human than any artificial voice I've ever heard. I've been listening to your questions, and I was wondering why the professor introduced me earlier. I thought for a while that the professor had a bit of a mean streak in him. You've got that right. The Maho on the screen spoke with a slightly irritated expression, and the Maho by the wall nodded in agreement. Dr. Zinki simply smiled. What was going on here? What part of this was the biggest project? The rest of the audience didn't seem to have any more of a clue than I did. Many of you are wondering whether it's possible to extract a human's memories as data, save them, and use them. You're wondering if that's really something we can do. So I'll put this question to you. If not, what am I? I am based off data which was extracted from Maho's brain 78 hours and 23 minutes ago. What did she just say? The professor said something else in rapid English and asked Maho on the screen to translate it. But she, if she was the right word, hesitated and went silent. I looked at a real Maho, and she was responding exactly the same way. Professor, it is alright if... Professor, is it alright if I report to the university? Dr. Zinki laughed cheerfully and responded to her. The conversation was in quick English, and over half the audience couldn't understand it. The Maho sighed and took back the microphone. Well, the professor, has told the Amadeus system, which is based on my memories, to answer a question. It was, stuff like how old I was when I stopped taking or when I just fell in love. Any of those questions should be answerable. Oh geez, you didn't have to translate anymore. Would you stop that? It's embarrassing. I'm not answering any questions like that. The professor said something else, and the Maho on the screen ground and turned away. And I'm definitely not telling you my credit card number. And I don't even remember what kind of pajamas I was wearing a few weeks ago. What was this? It was so natural I couldn't tell at first, but this was something unbelievable, wasn't it? It felt very different than a typical AI. I could tell that much. It wasn't answering the questions it was given, and because they were embarrassing, was it programmed to respond like that to certain questions for the purposes of this demonstration? It was possible that that's all it was, but if that conversation wasn't programmed in advance, the rest of the crowd seemed to reach the same conclusion I did, and the whisper started to turn to surprise. Listen, can you do something about this little troublemaker? I know what he's trying to do, but it's embarrassing. The copy of Maho was complaining to the original. It felt like I was watching a pair of twin sisters talking. Well, since the little troublemaker, that is, Dr. Zinki, is having too much fun to explain what's going on here, I will. Maho walked back to the professor. I think everyone's already figured it out, but Amadeus is deciding on its own what it can and can't talk about, and what it does and doesn't want to talk about. We haven't programmed any of this into her as well. I knew it. It's using the memories we gave it to make its own autonomous decisions. Excuse me. The Maho on screen suddenly took over for her. And there's another thing, which is the exact opposite of the medical applications we discussed. The research team spends a lot of time arguing about this, but I eventually forget about unnecessary information. Or rather, I became unable to access those memories, just like all of you. For example, the colour of the pyjamas I wore a week ago. There's no reason I shouldn't know this, but right now I couldn't remember it. That's because this information isn't necessary to my survival. The same goes for all of you. So as you see, Amadeus' memories, inputs and outputs are very similar to our humans. This result surprised us too, and we're currently researching it, but we still don't know exactly how it works. Exactly how it works. You don't know exactly how it works. That looks like the lifter of Rintaro's PhoneWave back in the Alpha Worldline. As Maho finished up, Dr. Zinki took back a microphone. She resumed interpreting as he continued the lecture. Another thing that surprised us is that Amadeus is capable of deliberate lies. By deliberate, it means it lies on its own free will, not as a result of any programming error. Lies are one method that humans use to communicate with one another. And just like a human, Amadeus can use his memories to decide if lying would be best. If so, it would lie without hesitation. Don't tell me that, Professor. I can't lie without hesitation. I have a conscience, you know. I'm so sorry, and Dr. Zezuki cut off. He seemed to be hesitating. Maho doesn't seem especially surprised by this. Maybe she knew the reason. But the moment passed, and the professor continued. And Maho translated his words like there was nothing shocking about them at all. As we continue our research, we eventually believe that it may be possible to give Amadeus a soul, just like a living humans. I was stunned. A soul? Shouldn't one of the leading brain scientists of the world really be using a word such as vague definition? This would mean the creation of artificial intelligence in the true sense. The whole hall has gone very quiet, and it was sheer chaos for a while after that, as everyone tried to debate their own personal theories with Dr. Zinki at once. It was thanks to Zaki that I was able to get into reception held after the ATF was over. Okay, I'm going to leave it at this point, folks, because I don't want to spend any longer than I need to doing this lovely little preview. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I have. Check out the game if you want to in the links in the description below. I'll be leaving a link towards the Amazon place where you can buy it and the Rice Digital place where you can buy them. The Rice Digital place I would recommend because that has an exclusive edition of this game which gives you more, which I didn't buy, I didn't know about it. But that's going to be it for me. That's going to be it for this preview. I hope you enjoyed it. And check out the game for yourself if you have not done so already. But I would recommend checking out Steins Gate 1 first before checking out this sequel, because that explains a lot of things about this game. So thank you very much for watching, folks. And we shall see each other's in another video. Not in this game, though. In another preview video of another game. Have a good day and take care of yourselves.